Hey, what's happening everyone? Pragmatic Addict here. So thankfully I don't need to do too much of an intro here. We can just kind of get into the review because this is coming from the producers behind Barbarian with the teaser we got, as well as coming from Jack Quaid himself. Yeah, this has everything going for it to be that next. Go into this film as blind as you can. So we're gonna get right into Companion. So right off the bat, the film capitalizes on the questions that I had based off of what I personally knew about the film before going into it, which I'm not going to at all spoil. Again, this was made very clear by everything in the marketing that this was meant to be an experience that you go in completely blind to, or at least as blind as you can. Guess you could call this a blind date. But those questions were things such as, how does it all happen? Why? What is the actual background to everything? This couple, where does it all lead? The chemistry as well as the setup between these two, it really does set up as what would just be a perfectly casted romance with incredible chemistry between its two leads. You would never suspect this film as a horror film of any degree had you not seen any of the marketing. And Sophie Thatcher, I love her, but this is instantly my favorite role of hers, my favorite performance of hers. How much she has to work with as this character, her aesthetic, personality, all this before anything really happens. It is a dream role for her. And not just in the sense of like, I don't know if you could ask for more out of one role, but just as a role for Sophie Thatcher specifically. But what I really loved in the beginning especially was how the film sets up hints for its background. The most important yet subtle ways that hint at certain things, but don't give any idea as to what that background is. Things like body language, demeanor, that hint enough that things aren't what they seem. And how the film just captures every tone it's going for, whether that be comedy or a love story, the aesthetic, the chemistry amongst everyone. This is a film where being self-aware as an audience really pays off. Knowing you're going into this film blind from the makers behind a film like Barbarian, knowing at least that there is some sort of horror genre somewhere to some shape or form in this film, it makes everything that much more exciting to watch. Seeing how well everything is working and flowing as that 97-minute runtime just ticks away. And again, just knowing that this has that genre to it to some degree at some point, but yet not having any actual indication saying so this far in the film. Which makes you feel like not only something big is coming, something really worth the wait, worth the reveal, but with how well everything has worked up to this point, it's also just an absolutely anticipating watch. I will say though, when and how things start to turn for the worst, it doesn't feel the smoothest as far as those transitions. And I think it's just because everything in that first act is so tight and fitting and has all the perfect pieces as the love story it seems to be at first, that when the more genre parts actually come in, how underwhelming they introduce that, it feels just a bit awkward and even disappointing. It's just, I feel there should have been a particular point where that bomb gets dropped, which ultimately did make me feel at this point like the going in blind marketing was more for marketing purposes, and it just didn't feel like anything huge or special or like a real reveal. And just as more things began to be revealed and the more that the film went on, the less solid the film itself actually started to be. First it was the introduction of the genre just not coming in too strong. Then it was the story elements that felt very underwhelming. It just felt like everything I was looking forward to the most at this point, from what I gathered before going into the film, was delivering the weakest. The film is also just a bit odd with bringing in story points at the most random times, and these plot points actually being pretty important as far as further building and revealing this world, but it just doesn't feel cohesive as the scene that needs to be shown now, or the story point that we need to be focusing on right now. And I understand a slow burn or a mystery, but the more things that came in, sure, the more questions I had, but it was more of a feeling of like, I had these questions because the film is just kind of leaving me in the dark. It felt like forcefulness as far as raising questions instead of genuine intrigue or anything really thought-provoking. I will say though, you do feel the movie like snort a line or two regarding Sophie Thatcher's character in the midway point of the movie, regarding some self-discovery that is everything that you could want as far as hype, its plot, as far as what we know so far up to this point in the movie, as well as just more room for Sophie Thatcher in the role as a performance to explore, as well as for the film itself to explore creativity with this character. Honestly, everything regarding her is superior. Her acting, the effects, the reveals, and I was happy to see how smart and important those reveals were to the story going forward. And goddamn, when that comes in and is fully established, the movie is back on track and is a total fucking blast the rest of the way through. The movie has a very strong setup with aesthetic, tone, chemistry, build-up, and a mostly solid third act. It's just most things in the middle portion of the film, the filler, well, it feels like filler. Though I will say the last few minutes leading up to the actual climax, I do think that there are some things that just don't fully add up, that just aren't explored or addressed enough. And by the climax, well, I found it to overstay its welcome just a bit. And the movie itself to have a bit of trouble pace-wise throughout its runtime, I mostly enjoyed it. So guys, those are my thoughts on Companion. I was very lucky to see this film early. I do think that especially the first half of the film leads to a lot of anticipation. And I think that by the end of the movie, looking back at everything, it is an entertaining watch. So yes, guys, that is going to do it for my thoughts on Companion. Once you guys see this film, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. But yes, guys, with all that being said, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one very soon.